so that there won't be a lot of interruptions, while we work ourselves through many of the trends in cybersecurity today. Okay. Mm, screen. All right, here we go. I believe we all can see my screen. Let me just take this away. Yeah, gonna
Yes,
put it
I
here.
can see your screen.
All right, fantastic. So our agenda today is to focus on understanding cybersecurity because we know how we have a couple of people here who are just probably new to cybersecurity, who want to know what cybersecurity is all about. We also have some people who have taken some SStat or who had some SStat in terms of you know, working towards cybersecurity, learning about cybersecurity, the concept. We're also going to talk about the threat, the most popular threat or the likely threat that you get to face within the cybersecurity sphere or within the cyberspace. We're going to talk about how cybersecurity is applied in almost every role, right? So you have element of cybersecurity in almost every role you can think of that is digitally inclined today. We're also going to talk about how you're going to apply cybersecurity in terms of application, in terms of practice. That's also be part of our conversation today. Then lastly, we're going to end it with our 30 to 60 and 90 days transition plan that we think might be sufficient for whoever is starting into cybersecurity or whoever has already started or whoever is willing to start, whatever stage you are in, I believe this course or this class or this session will be very, very useful to you. So let's talk about the learning outcomes of cybersecurity because by the end of this masterclass, I want to strongly believe that many of us here today will be able to understand cybersecurity fundamentals because cybersecurity covers a lot of things. A lot of people just hear, "Oh, I want to be a cybersecurity specialist, or I want to be a cybersecurity manager or analyst." But the fundamentals of cybersecurity today, we're going to talk about that and want at least most of us or all of us to have strong knowledge and strong understanding of the fundamentals. And I'm also going to talk about the threat, vulnerability, the attack method that are popular in cybersecurity and a lot of people come across on a day-to-day basis. That's also be part of one of the outcomes that I expect that we should have at the end of this masterclass to be able to recognize threats, to be able to understand vulnerability, the gaps within the system, to also learn about the attack methods. There are different attack methods, there are different ways that people are being exposed. As hackers are getting more brilliant, the cybersecurity specialists too are getting more brilliant. So it's more of attack and defense, right? Somebody's attacking, you have to learn to defend yourself or defend, your environment. Hey, sorry, excuse me. Again, another thing that I believe strongly that we are also going to learn is how, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, how cybersecurity integrates with your current role, right? Whatever role you're, as long as you have access to the internet, you will definitely need cybersecurity at some point. You will definitely need some element of cybersecurity. You will definitely need some knowledge of cybersecurity, across all roles that are digitally inclined. Just so that has to be, part of the learning outcomes that we expect as well. And as well as the structured 30 to 60 and 90 days plan that we think that people can easily, work themselves through, that people can easily get to do on a day-to-day basis. And also by as time goes on, you get to improve, you get to learn more, you get to practice more, you get to know more. And from there on, you then get to, be more skilled in this field because it's a lot, so trust me, but it's also fun while you're doing it. Then lastly, we also talk about how personally, you're going to learn some security best practices that are also beginner friendly, that are also good for you to, be in a position where you can always spot threat easily. I know that, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do, right? This is the best practices. This is the tool I can use to analyze this and talk about some vulnerabilities and gaps as well within the system. So we're talking about cybersecurity now, understanding cybersecurity. When we ask what is cybersecurity, is the practice of protecting systems, network data from cyber attacks. And I will explain. By systems, we're talking about infrastructure, we're talking about computers, PC devices, we're talking about mobile devices, we're talking about servers, we're talking about cloud systems. So all these are under systems, right? Because systems is almost limitless. But today we have a lot of mobile systems. You have the PC, you have Mac, you have, you know, any system that is deployed across the environment. And networks is quite straightforward as well. You have, the wide area network, the local area network, the internal network, the private network, public network. You have different kind of network as well, depending on what is deployed in your environment or the environment you're working in. Um, Other networks as well, you have VPN, which is virtual private network, which is also used as some form of security to, secure a network. And data is all the information that move across these entities, which is between network and systems, your documents, your videos, your pictures, your files, you know, your forecast, your Excel sheet. All of these are under data. So how do you protect your data? How do you protect all this information from being accessed from unauthorized user? So that is the essence of cybersecurity. That is the reason why, you know, people who are really knowledgeable, the NIST, the Institute of Standard Technology have really come together to say, okay, how do we put it into practice to protect our systems, to protect our network, to protect our data from unauthorized user? Because you don't want people who can manipulate your data, who can use your data for wrong reasons to have access. So that is the fundamentals, one of the core fundamentals of cybersecurity that we all have to understand. It cuts across systems, cut across network, cut across data. And it's also fun, working around these things and getting to learn them one by one if you want, or if you have already started. It will also be interesting to learn them if you've not started. So the second part that we think is crucial in understanding cybersecurity here is what we call the CIA triad. The CIA triad is like the core foundation of cybersecurity. And it's the C here stands for confidentiality, the I stands for integrity, the A is for availability. Now, the confidentiality is that every data, every information you have on a system, network has to be confidential, has to be private, has to be secure. So that's so you see that under confidentiality, we have like three other things that has to, be activated for it to now say, okay, yes, this data pass as confidential, right? He has to be authorized. He has to get to the right person. Now, the integrity, we have to talk about the integrity of digital information. It has to be unchanged. It has to be accurate. If I'm sending you ABC, you have to get ABC, not ABCD. And it's ABC, the information I'm sharing with you or with the right or with the authorized user, then they have to get ABC. As long as they get anything else, then the data does not have good integrity. It's already changed. It has been manipulated. There's a lot has gone on within that kind of data. Then availability. Availability means that it has to be readily accessible. It has to be readily available. It has to be, you know, it has to be up every time. So, for example, if I'm authorized to access some financial data within the organization, it shouldn't be that, oh, I need to check a record or financial record of a particular, user or particular system, but I don't have access. As long as it's not available, then it doesn't fall under the core practice of cybersecurity. But in today's world, we have also figured out that cybersecurity is not only essential for businesses, it's also essential for government institutions, it's essential for individuals alike, because you are as good as your weakest link. You're as good as, the weakest part in the team. Your environment is as secure as, the weakest person on the team, right? Or the weakest user or the weakest system on the team. So if let's say your ERP is not secure, it might be the weakest link. It might not necessarily be a user, it may be a system, it may be someone who doesn't know what needs to be done as regards cybersecurity practices and as regards securing their own spheres of the environment. So essentially, cybersecurity is protecting data, protecting people, protecting systems, because all of these they are the integral parts of digital information. You need people to use data, you need people to use system, and you also need people to be aware of cybersecurity best practices so that they will not fall prey to attackers and hackers. So, why does cybersecurity matter? Like I said earlier, in today's world, cybersecurity is needed across government institutions, needed across private institutions, needed across individuals, needed across social organizations, community, everywhere. Because we have people who are always trying to attack you, who are always trying to gain authorized access to your data. We have people who are always looking out for, you know, vulnerabilities in the system, right? In top companies like Microsoft, Google, Meta, they have some team that will continually attack, or they will continually start looking for vulnerabilities or gaps within the system. And they also have another team on the other side that will continually defend. So internally, they are testing their systems vigorously. They are testing their people vigorously. They are testing um, their their process vigorously, such that they can then easily identify the gaps before they are exposed to external hackers or external attackers. So the average cost of data breach, for example, in this year alone is over $8.2 million, just data breach by getting data to the wrong, by letting unauthorized user or authorized people have access to data can cost company more in millions of dollars, right? It depends on how huge the company is. So I'll give you an example of this. If, for example, you have an integration with another company, it might not necessarily be your company, but for the fact that you have an integration or you have some sort of data exchange between another company and the other company is exposed, you are technically exposed as well. So it's not even enough for you to be protected or for you to try to protect yourself. It's also important to know that the people you're sharing your data with, they also have the right cybersecurity standards. They have the right cybersecurity measures. They are also taking the best practices into play. Otherwise, if you share your data, your company data, your private data with the wrong hands, then you are technically exposed. And I'm sure that many of us must have come through something like that recently. For example, people who get their WhatsApp hacked. I'm going to use something that we've all used. WhatsApp, for example. Someone that the WhatsApp is hacked. It's not my WhatsApp, but the person will be reaching out to me to try to hack me as well, or to try to, exploit me. So that's like a gap from the system because we have some level of data exchange, we have some level of handshake, information exchange. Because the person who was exposed, I was automatically exposed as well. So, but if you don't have that kind of knowledge to defend yourself, then you can be easily exploited. We've also researched that over 34% year on year globally, cyber attacks go up because, like I said earlier, the attackers are getting wiser, and the defenders need to get smarter, right? Because if you block this way, they want to go through another way, and you know, you have to, as long as you're defending, you have to continue being smart. Otherwise, they are going to exploit the vulnerabilities within your systems. Now, most nowadays, we've also researched that most threats are targeted towards individuals, enterprises, and governments. There's a business enterprise uh, scheme that many hackers do, and it's also is popular across the world where they have chains of hackers that are connected, and they're all continually trying to exploit the enterprise or trying to exploit the business until they get something out of it. Even government institutions have been exposed to different forms of hacking at one point or the other. And we can also confirm that from some of the news we've heard, you can hear maybe from some governments in the US, they explored maybe during COVID funds, these funds here and there, the those funds get to the wrong hands, through targets, and they were strongly targeted and they were exploited. We also researched that global cybercrime is projected to cost over $10 trillion by 2025, which means that I don't know what business or what sector make this amount of money, right? We can count them in one hand. How many businesses can make $10 trillion, right? So you can imagine how many hackers, how many people want to continue exploiting enterprises, continue exploiting government institutions, continue exploiting individuals. $1 million a year, $500,000 a year, $10,000 a year, $1 billion a year. Before you know, you have huge amount of money that has been exploited from the system and from the process or from people generally. So the amount is going up because hackers are getting wiser. They are recruiting more people. They are, taking advantage of institutions who have not taken cybersecurity seriously, maybe, and they have also taken advantage of vulnerabilities within the processes and systems within some institution. And another thing that we have to keep in mind is that every industry is vulnerable. Every industry is vulnerable. I could remember back then in 2020 when ransomware was just started. It was something new, but it started with top company, and the top company, their data was held to ransom. They have zero access to their data. So without data, what can you do? You can't transact. You don't know your records. You don't know your customers. You don't know so you're basically handicapped. So every industry is vulnerable. More reason why we have to understand that we have to take cybersecurity seriously. And not only about industry, every individual as well is vulnerable, including myself. Every day, I try to take the best practices seriously. I try to analyze my vulnerabilities. I try to see that, okay, yeah, I'm not downloading unauthorized software on my device. I'm not using unlicensed application. Every day we continually do those checks on our devices, our systems, our application, just to make sure that will probably not be accessible, at least easily. Then another thing that we have researched is that demands for skilled professional is getting higher, is increasing day by day. Why is it increasing day by day? We captured earlier that cybersecurity cuts across different domains of IT. We're able to talk about systems, we're able to talk about network, we're also able to talk about processes, we're able to talk about data. All of these entities need to be secure. And for that reason, you need professionals who can evaluate the system from day to day and be able to say, okay, yeah, this is where we need improvement. This is where we need, more security. This is where we need more investment. We need people who are network security expert, for example. I believe we'll get there anyway. But the most important thing to take note here is that skilled professional, the sky is still big enough for all of us to fly as cybersecurity professionals, whether as cybersecurity analysts directly or infusing cybersecurity into our current role. Now, let's talk about cybersecurity fundamentals. Initially, I also talked about the CIA triad, which is the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. I'm also going to, go over that again for us to, to get accustomed to all these words, because you can just see the word confidential. What does confidential mean? Confidential means that it's private. Confidential means that it's secure. Confidential means that it's reliable, right? It has access to the right person. That's if I want to give Mr. A some amount of money, for example, I ensure that the money gets to Mr. A confidentially, right? It doesn't have to, nobody needs to know how much I gave to the person, right? Integrity, like I mentioned earlier, is that the data or the information exchange is unchanged. it is unchanged. It is not manipulated. It is, it is pure. It is also once it gets to the right hand, for example, you're sending $10 from Mr. A to Mr. B. Mr. B gets $10. No $11, no 9.5. It's exactly $10. So the integrity falls in that you said, I'm coming, you were there. You said you were going to send this, you got it. So under integrity as well, you have the network traffic, you have the information exchange, you have API connection, you have a lot of things that fall under integrity. Availability itself, now he's talking about as how data becomes readily accessible, how data is has to be available, how data has to be how the data has to be easy for the right person to access almost every time. So, and I've also explained that in terms of availability, you have to ensure whether you're hosting your data on cloud or you're hosting it on-prem or you're using a local network, or you're using whatever form of data storage, it has to be readily available. As long as your data does not conform with this CIA triad, then you are not secure, right? So in terms of security, in terms of confidentiality as well, we're talking about security. We're talking about if you're using an e-commerce platform, we're talking about SSL, secure socket layer, for your data to pass securely. We're talking about payment card in the industry standard, payment card industry data security standard. That's for, retail businesses and the likes, or anyone who accepts payments from customers. All of this CIA triad, you have to ask yourself, the information I'm collecting, the information I'm sharing, do they pass all the CIA triad? And that's like the core fundamentals of cybersecurity. In fact, it's one of the strongest. So if you look at your data, if it's readily available, okay, is this confidential? Is this secure? Is it unchanged? Can it be easily manipulated? Can somebody just go in and say, okay, it is not integer, it is integrated? Can somebody just change the data? Or can anybody just have access to the data? And we have to also keep this in mind that CIA triad is that's why I'm really, really emphasizing on it. It's very, 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 very important in terms of data storage or data accessibility. Now, the next part we are going to touch on as core fundamentals of cybersecurity is defense in depth. Defense in depth means that you have multiple levels of security. And I'm very sure in our day-to-day, uses of application or interaction with systems, we've also realized some added layers of protection across these systems. And for example, if you want to access your mobile application, your banking application, for example, easily you're going to sign in and it's going to send you maybe a one-time password to verify that you're the one signing in, or send you a secondary form of authorization through your choice of device to say, okay, are you sure? Am I sure you're the one signing in? And you can also see that additionally, the banks will also send you an email or a form of information that, okay, somebody signed into your account. If it's not you, report to this account so that they can take added steps. If you notice that anything happened to your account, oh, I got an email that somebody signed into my banking account. It wasn't me. You access their support team, they're able to probably block the account immediately. So all these are just trying to help user be able to implement the best practices in terms of, protecting their data, because essentially, security has to be decentralized. It's everyone's responsibility, whether in the digital world or in physical world. It's everyone's responsibility to try and be, to protect themselves, from an authorized set of people. So for defense in depth, we have the MFA, multi-factor authenticator, which I just explained. We have passwordless authentication. We have different forms of authentication. We have secondary authentication. We have different forms of verification to ensure that, okay, this right person is being authorized to have access to the right data. Then the next core fundamental here is called the zero trust. Now, the zero trust means that all the device or all systems or all users who have exchanged some form of information before will still continually verify that, okay, I gave you this data this morning, but you are requesting this data again. Are you still the same person requesting the data? So that is the information exchange across systems, trying to exchange data. So, okay, you collected Excel from me requiring forecast or whatever information, but you still require this information again. Are you the same person? So the system will verify that you are the right person again, having access to the right data. So the system always, or the device, this cuts across, systems, device, people, um, to ensure that the verification always happen every time you need to access data. So regardless of whether you've been authenticated into the system, you will still have some level of extra verification that will be done, which is called the zero trust. And I can also give you an added example. For example, if you log into your bank account, you've already verified yourself that you've logged into your bank account. When you need to send some funds across to other accounts or to any other person, the system will still cast you for a level of verification again to say, okay, you want to send X amount of money to this user. Can you put your password? Can you put this secret word? Can you put this authentication process? Just to be sure that, yes, you are the same person who wants to send this amount of money. Whether it's a huge amount of money or low amount of money, no, the system is still performing some level of zero trust. I'm not going to assume that this is the right person until I verify that this is the right person that is sending this amount of money. Then the last, or the fourth that we have here, is that the principle of least privilege. They call it the principle of least privilege. Now, the principle of least privilege does not really apply to end user. However, it does apply more to the admins, which means that if I need someone working as, let me just use financial analyst, I need to give the person the amount of required permissions that they need to do their job, nothing extra. You don't need to give them additional permission to say, oh, they need to, maybe they want to do some HR duties. No, focus on your finance permissions and you give them the finance permission. If they need HR duties, that's another level of access management, which is called the privileged access management, where they can now say, okay, they want to request for HR permissions because finance, maybe they need to create payroll, whatever, and not. Then that's a separate conversation. But for now, you are a financial analyst. The permission you have is to do the roles of financial analyst. You're not going to get anything extra from marketing, IT, HR. You're only going to be able to do what you're required to do. Now, what does this mean? What it means is that if the person is exposed, or if the person is, if the person is exposed, it can be easily contained. You can easily contain that kind of exposure. Say someone from finance is exposed. Okay, it's only within the finance team. It has not gotten to other team members of the team. More like quickly, taking care of cancer before it spreads, right? So you're going to quickly jump on it to say, okay, we have someone exposed in finance team, and we need to curtail this user as quickly as possible. In that case, but if you give every user more required permission than they need, then if they are exposed, you are exposing automatically other departments easily. Easily, imagine I am within the company, I have access to do IT, I can do marketing, I can do HR, I can do, excuse me, so that's my son over there. He came to report some issues. Anyway, oh my, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
we're in the
so as I was saying, so the principle of least privilege is very, very, very crucial as regards maintaining and containing issues across, you know, across the team, across exposure to also reduce the number of, threats within the or vulnerabilities. Oh my God.
Okay, guys. So I'm hoping that everyone is enjoying the session. Please, while we wait for Adedapo to join us again, I have dropped the links to the YouTube channel where you can watch all the sessions. You can watch the previous ones. This is also going to be uploaded there today as soon as we're done. And I've also dropped the link to the WhatsApp channel. So you can always follow all our updates and our upcoming sessions. Back
All
to you,
right.
Dapo.
Yeah, I'm back. Thank you. Yeah, so now we're going to talk about, evolving threats, like something we've touched on earlier. The threats among these hackers are evolving. The method they're using in 2003 is not the same thing they're using in 2025, in 2010. Every day they have new ways of trying to access the system unauthorized. So part of the threat landscape that we have researched is that we're having more level of AI-powered phishing and deepfake scam. Phishing in itself, phishing is not new. It's not new, but the issue now is that it's AI powered, so which means that it's more intelligent, right? So phishing is an art of sending fake links or let me just say let me keep it at fake links to users and then deceiving them to make them believe that the link is coming from authorized people or authorized system. So for example, maybe they want to send a link regarding system update. They can say, okay, Microsoft ask you to update this and that, and they can put some level of deception into the spelling, and you will already think that, oh, this is coming from Microsoft, and you quickly jump on it from there. They have access to your system. Then deepfakes. Deepfakes is also new because it's also deepfakes is somewhat new, right? But phishing is not new. Phishing has been in existence for a very long time. But deepfake is somewhat new because it's also AI powered, whereby they can visualize your picture, your voice, your image to make it seem as if you're the one saying what you did not say, or you're the one authorizing what you did not authorize. I'm sure we might have seen a lot of comic videos where people do deepfakes about some top celebrities and make them sound like they said something they didn't say, just for laughter. But in reality, people use um, those kind of technology to have unauthorized access to a system and to have unauthorized access to people as well, and to be able to take away their resources without the necessary authorization. They can defake a manager to say, okay, oh, yeah, for sure, you want to see my face? Yeah, because they have the manager's data in terms of picture, voice, video. They use those applications. Okay, let's do a video call. And you do a video call, assuming that you're speaking with your manager. And the manager, oh yeah, approve it. You can take the money, you can take whatever. So what deepfake comes in different formats, but most especially pictures, video, and audio. So the voice will be the same. The video, everything, the face will be there. Now, the second part of evolving threat landscape that we have also researched is what we call cloud misconfiguration. Now, cloud misconfiguration, again, this is when you are trying to, this is more related towards admin, but again, having the knowledge is very, very helpful so that when you cite it, because it's a threat, when you cite it, you can easily say, okay, something is wrong somewhere or something is not right. We need to do this according to the best practices. Cloud misconfiguration can happen when you are trying to, configure a cloud system or an application, and you are not securing the application right. For example, I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. For e-commerce platform, there are some level of security that or configuration that you have to do. And if your e-commerce, for example, do not have SSL certificate, which is a secure socket layer certificate, which is good for your data integrity and security as well, then your data can be easily manipulated. The payment you are taking on your platform can easily be accessed by the wrong hands. Um, your transactions can easily be accessed because you just did not configure SSL, right? So another example is that you're deploying an application and you're giving the wrong access, which is also part of principle of least privilege. You're giving more access to who does not need it or who does not need that much power within the business. If that person is exposed or anything happens, then you have misconfigured the system. You can easily get yourself down, right? So there are a lot of couple more forms of misconfiguration that we should take note of within the system. So another thing that we have discovered is ransomware as a service. Ransomware as a service is also a part of threat that I mentioned something regarding ransomware where they are going to seize your data and you will not have zero access to your data. So which means you cannot transact, you cannot sell, you cannot buy, you cannot inform your customer. You don't even know who your customers are because if you don't access your data, you don't know anybody. But now they are rendering it as a service, which means that it's readily available at little with little amount of money. You can, access platform who would then say, okay, with X amount of money, you can use our system to try to hack another system. Just pay us this amount of money. So which means that you are not even trying to create a platform or you're not trying to hack any, you're not using your head in terms of creation. So it's now easy for you to now, have access to the wrong tool. Somewhat like that. I'm sure we've all heard about software as a service. We've heard about platform as a service. We've heard about infrastructure as a service. All of these are form of, decentralizing platform, software, and infrastructure instead of selling it outrightly. I don't need you to bring $10,000 for infrastructure. It's okay. You can start paying me $50 every month. I'm okay with that, right? So somewhat like that. So imagine somebody building a ransomware platform and they say, okay, you don't need to pay me 20,000. Just start paying me $50, $100 here and there. So it's readily available. You just need some amount of money to get started, which makes it more dangerous, right? Then the last point here that we've also researched is the insider threat. And if you notice from what I've been saying, I've been emphasizing on insider threat a lot because this is one of the highest form of data breaches. This is one of the highest form of data manipulation. It's one of the highest form of unauthorized access to data. And in this form, you have people who, are the weakest link. Might not necessarily be people, it might be system, it might be application. You have an application within your environment that is not secure, but this application also connects to other application, right? You have a system that is not properly secure, but this system is also interfacing with other platforms, other user. So it might not necessarily be user, because a lot of people always think, oh, when they say insider, they're talking about people. Yeah, people are among, but it might also cut across people, systems, devices. If you have a device that is porous and is in the environment, you are as good as, a major risk within the system. So this is also part of things that we'll look out for within our business or within our environment, whether as an individual or as an employee or as a business owner, right? So here, this brings us to the second module, which is the cybersecurity concept and requirements. Here, we're going to talk about why cybersecurity rely on a lot of security mechanism, and it's also the practice against threat as well. We're also going to talk about, authentication, encryption, risk management, authorization, compliance. This is my favorite because if you can get hold of this, you will be good because your network need access, your application need access. your cloud needs access, your data needs access, your data needs encryption, your network needs encryption. If you can get through the second point, you understand it, you will be very, 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 you will have a lot of fun, right? You have a lot of fun. Let me put it that way. Then we're going to talk about the network security, the part we're going to focus on firewalls, the intrusion detection system. We also have the intrusion prevention system. I remember that I mentioned earlier, for those who joined early, um, I was talking about where you have some teams within top organization where they have one team continually attacking the system and they have another team continually defending the system. So this is more of intrusion detection and prevention. Okay, I detect this. Okay, can you prevent it? And all of that. We're also going to talk about VPN, VPN as well, virtual private network that cut across how you can send your data through network privately and be sure that it's encrypted, is is not it doesn't go through the wrong hands or it doesn't get through the wrong hands. Under encryption as well, you have the public encryption, you have the private encryption, you have some other forms of encryption whereby you have public key, you have private key, you have different forms of encryption, but they are more secure than the other, right? And again, based on best practices, you will have the knowledge to deploy the right solution for your environment. Another thing that we are going to talk about as a concept here is the application security, which is API protection, code reviews, application security. Many nowadays we have a lot of applications that are well integrated. You'll be in one application. You don't even know that you're already accessing data from several bunches of application as well. Code reviews as well, which is also important for those who have some knowledge of programming. We're going to talk about cloud security, the shared responsibility model, how, what is important to take note of in terms of cloud security, because nowadays a lot of companies are moving towards, putting their data on the cloud. And you still have a lot of companies that are saying, no, our data will be on premise. We are not really moving to the cloud because we are not sure of the security level of data accessibility in cloud. Then we're going to talk about data security, where you have encryption, where you have backups, where you have the life cycle plan, you have the disaster, recovery plan, and all of that. This is also within data security. Then, and of course, these are how we're going to bundle it into our day-to-day practice to improve ourselves. My favorite part, we're talking about authentication and authorization. Authentication in itself, it's a form of verification, verifying identities. Now, when we're talking about identity, again, we need to also continually picture. When you're talking about identity, you're talking about user, which can be people, you're talking about application, you're talking about devices, you're talking about systems, right? So those are they are different identities. So you can come we have application, integrated, sharing, having a handshake, having a couple of API integration. They need to verify themselves. Are you the right application? Okay, you want to install payment gateway. Are you the right payment gateway? Am I getting the right amount of money from the right card? Verification, knowing who is there, right? In layman words, trying to understand who is at your environment. Somebody is coming to your house. You want to know, who are you? Oh, you're my friend. Okay, come in. Oh, I don't know you. Do you miss your way? Go to the next house maybe, or you can go out of this environment. So in our day-to-day application, we'll see that we are kind of doing these things, and we'll just have to find a way to apply it into what we do in the systems as well. And like I mentioned earlier, security is everyone's responsibility, whether in your private life or in your public space. It's still your responsibility to try and protect yourself. Now, authorization. Authorization is a form of access control. It's a form of access control in the sense that without authentication, authorization is not necessarily useful. You need, to be authenticated before you can be authorized. Now, authorization is not a form of where you have you have identity in your environment. I'll just keep it at identity. You have an identity in your environment. Now you cannot say, okay, this particular identity should have access to only financial data, right? If you go to marketing, you go to IT, you go to other teams, you do not have access. You have access only to financial data because you've been authorized to access only financial data. So you have, in layman words, again, I always try to break this down because I need people to understand why, to connect it to their personal lives. So in form of authentication again, in form of authorization, I already allowed my friend into my house because I already authenticated that, oh, this person is my friend. I know this person. Oh, come in. But this person is in my environment, they're in my house. I still need to then control their access. They cannot go to my bedroom. They cannot go to my maybe private washroom or private toilet. I have the visitor's toilet. I have the common room where they can have access. I have, the common space where they can be, right? And if I need them to, maybe they want to sleep over, for example, then I will need added level of access to say, okay, you want to sleep over, let me prepare this room for you, or let me prepare this space for you, or whatever. So in our day-to-day life, we need to be able to apply what we are doing in cybersecurity space because they are all form of security. As much as this person is my friend, I know my friend, but in my environment, they still have limits to where they can access, right? So think about it like that as authorization is a form of controlling access and be sure that the right person is authorized to access the right place or the right data at the right time. Now let's talk about encryption. I was mentioning earlier that under encryption we have different forms of encryption. We have the public encryption, we have the private encryption, we have the public key, we have private key, we have different endpoint encryption, we have endpoint put. It's a lot. But it's also fun because once you understand the concept of encryption, you will then be able to say, okay, this is where I'm going to apply it. This is how I'm going to do it. Because encryption itself is a form of security, and security is under confidentiality, right? So encryption is trying to deform data, let me say data or information such that even when unauthorized user have access to the data, they won't be able to decrypt it. They won't know the meaning. For example, I want to send you A, B, C, D, E. Well, I've encrypted it to maybe E, D, C, A, B. But when it gets to you, you're able to decrypt it that, oh, you want to send ABCD, and I will decrypt it because this is where the public key and private key, symmetric decryption, asymmetric decryption. There's a lot of, information here, but the concept is that I'm sending an information or I'm exchanging information with you, but I'm changing the format such that the user or the person who is receiving the information will be able to be the right person to decrypt it. And in our daily life, we have a lot of close friends where we have some code word that we use amongst ourselves, and we just know that, oh, this is what this person is talking about. But the people around you will not know. It's a form of encryption. You understand what I'm saying? So it's all of these are some, somewhat in our daily life, which I try to always connect to so that people can understand how this thing come into play in terms of systems, in terms of network and data. So hashing is now the process of manipulating that data or the process of deforming that information such that the user who is receiving it will not say, okay, oh, this is the form of, because you already informed the user I'm using this level of hashing method. And the user, okay, this is the hashing method you have, or I have this key as well. Then they can be able to interpret your encryption. So there are different hashing methods as well. There are different hashing methods. There is RS, there is MD, there is different hashing methods. So more like you have a padlock, right? There are different kind of padlocks. Some padlocks use code, some use numbers of keys, some use different kind of keys for you to unlock them. So just think about it like that. You have your encryption as some sort of padlock, and you have the hashing as the kind of padlock, right? I hope I'm able to break it down to how we can easily understand it for those of us who are just new to this environment. They were talking about firewall. Firewall is a level of is a strong part of network security. And in this part, we're talking about how this can block, um, threat within the network environment, how you can assess the vulnerability within the network environment, how you can protect unauthorized user from accessing the data within the network. Because we all need network to transmit information, to transmit data, to transmit anything, right? So, but when we are transmitting this data, all the encryption, the VPN, they go through the network. Also, firewall itself has a lot of function in terms of filtering network traffic, ensuring that the right traffic access the right environment. It can be incoming or it can be outgoing data. If you're sending data, if the firewall senses a threat coming to the network, the firewall can block it, which is part of blocking malicious activity. If it also senses a threat going out from within the network, the firewall can also block it. Maybe an hacker has an access to your environment and they're trying to, send unauthorized data or malicious information across your network. So the firewall can dictate and block all those kind of malicious activities, whether incoming or outgoing. And part of this is also what I mentioned earlier, if anybody caught it, the PCI DSS standard, which can also be deployed, within the firewall. Because, for example, if you're in the retail business and you are spending your card, you are using your card for transaction, right? Your card is going through the network within that retail business. So it's part of compliance for all retail industry to have firewalls who have PCI DSS, which is the payment card industry data security standard, so that your card details will be securely transmitted within the network. Then you won't see that after buying a pair of shoes, they start getting extra debits from your account from using unauthorized network, right? Then antivirus is mainly useful for detecting malicious activities within the environment. Some antivirus too have some network security embedded nowadays, but the primary responsibility or the primary work of antivirus is to detect malicious activities within the environment. So it can be within the system, it can be within it can be within the network, it can be within the application, but there's always a level of antivirus always present in every environment. Many of us who are using Microsoft devices, we have the Microsoft Defender naturally installed. We have a couple of antiviruses here and there, different ones, McAfee and all of that. So we're talking about next. I'm talking about threats, vulnerabilities, and risk. So threat is what you see coming, the kind of malicious activity that you can sense coming, right? And you can always, if you're prepared for those kind of threats, you can be able to defend your system, your environment easily. You can block, the threats easily, right? But if your system is not prepared for those kind of threats or any kind of threats that you see coming in, then they can have access to your platform and then be able to do whatever they need to do. Vulnerability, when you hear the word vulnerability in cybersecurity, they are talking about gaps within the system. Vulnerability could be the access that you did not configure rightly. It could be that the system was not updated at the right time. It could be that the security feature was not installed properly. It could be, could be a lot of gaps. There could be different kind of gaps within the system. And those gaps are what people really look out for to say, okay, how do I manipulate this system? How do I analyze the gaps and say, okay, this is where I'm going to go in through, right? So which is also common in our daily lives where you have, for those of us who watch sports, you see teams analyzing each other's vulnerability. Okay, the person in that position is not that good. We're going to put a lot of pressure on that person, and we're going to go in from there, whatever. But again, it's also a way of, I just want us to connect it to our daily lives as well. And threats is when you see from sports perspective as well, when you see an athlete that is very, very good, it becomes a threat to the other opponent, right? So I believe that's justice. That's enough justice to that. Risk is also some form of perceived threat. So some form of, it could be internal, it could be external, it could be um, it could be from different forms, but most likely internal or external. A form of risk can come in from analyzing the system, from saying that okay, because of this, we maybe you are supposed to update your particular system or application, but you are not able to do that, maybe maybe due to license limitation and all of that, right? That's a risk, potential risk. You already know. You might likely know that it's there because of a lack of update or lack of upgrade. You are going to risk your system to exposure. You're going to risk it to threat to easily have access to hackers to easily have access to your environment. Initially, I mentioned earlier that we have different forms of cybersecurity because when a lot of people hear cybersecurity, I think they always believe that oh, it's only one thing you need to know. Well, I strongly believe that based on the research we've done and based on best practices, these are the core things you need to know in cybersecurity because it's not only one point of entry. Cybersecurity is not one point of entry, right? You have the network, which network security, where you need to protect data, data in transit or data across network, like I mentioned earlier. You have the application security, where your software needs to be secure against exploitation. You need to be secure by upgrading at the right time, by updating at the right time, by installing the right security patches, by ensuring that you have the right feature at the right time. Not that you're using a feature that is 15 years old in today's world, right? Who can easily be accessible or manipulated. Then we're talking about endpoint security. Endpoint security here is focusing majorly on individuals, focusing on API, which is endpoint as well, connection to connection, focusing on devices, focusing on anything that is exchanging data across themselves, some form of endpoint security. Then we have the identity and access management, which is majorly controlling access across these entities, across, the devices, the users, the systems, the application, and the likes. Because as long as you don't have the right access for the right person, you can easily be exposed as well. Then we have data security as well, which is very important for data storage security, sharing of data, ensuring that you share data with the right person or the right user as well, or the right system. This is also a form, or these are different forms of data security, which is also part of, or which is also a type of cybersecurity. Then lastly, we have cloud security because we have many applications now running in cloud. We have the SaaS model, which is a software as a service. We have the PaaS model, which is the platform as a service. We have the HaaS model, which is the infrastructure as a service. So the platform as a service, like your YouTube, where YouTube, Netflix, they are all forms of platform as a service. You have access to the platform, but you're just paying, as a service. When you need it, you pay for it. If you don't need it, you leave it. Infrastructure is a form of server storage where you can have access to cloud platform like Microsoft Azure, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, and the likes. These are also form of cloud platforms where you need to know the security of those platforms as well. Then you have the software as a service. Software as a service is also a kind of software that has been built and people are now rendering it as a service, like your Microsoft Office. Some now you just pay, a certain amount of money. You have access to Microsoft Office. You have access to Microsoft platform. You have access to different kind of software that you need their services, right? Many people are not selling outright. In fact, you are not going to see any company selling their product outrightly anymore. So they are just is a form of a model that sustains financial health of the organization. Then identity and access management. I wanted to touch on this more because I've come to realize that identity is very, very, very important. Identity management because it cuts across network, it cuts across cloud, it cuts across application, it cuts across data, endpoints. All of this, you have to understand that access management is very, very important in cybersecurity. As an IAM specialist or IAM administrator, or anyone within the cybersecurity space, you have to take IAM seriously and ensure that the right people have the right access. That's just it. You don't need to do more, you don't need to do less. Just ensure that they have the right access at the right time. Because as long as that is not maintained, any form of exposure is going to expose the whole system easily. They're the core component of IAM, identity and access management, is authentication, authorization, user lifecycle management. Other authentication, like I've touched on that before, form of verifying identities to know that, okay, do I know you? Do I know this system? Do I know this application? Okay, if I know you, come into my environment. Then the authorization takes care of the access. Under authorization, you have different form of access control. Here, we're talking about role-based access control. For example, financial analyst only has financial analyst permission. Financial manager has some level of elevated permission. Financial director will also have some level of elevated permission. So those are role-based access control. So when you have somebody coming into those roles to say, okay, we have a new financial analyst or financial whatever, you just assign them those permissions because you already know it has already been designed to fit into those roles. So they call them role-based access control. Then we have the ABAC, which is the attribute-based access control. Attribute-based might be that if you have this kind of attribute, so for example, if you're a financial analyst and you also have HR skill, you might have some access to HR roles or to HR permissions. So it's attribute-based. Because you have this particular attribute, you have access to this particular permission. There are also different forms of authorization, but we're touching on these two for now. Um, under MFA, under authentication, we have the multi-factor authentication. I believe I've touched on that. We also have biometric, it can be your fingerprint, your eye, face scanner, iris control. Those are also form of biometric. We have the OTP, one-time password, add to token, software token, different forms of authentication. Then user lifecycle management. This is also very, very important because it's also one of the ways where users get access to data unauthorized. And this is majorly talking about when they say user lifecycle. Again, when you see something within cybersecurity, you see user, you see identity, they're not talking about only people. You're talking about systems, they're talking about application, they're talking about people, they're talking about processes. So if you're going to say user lifecycle, once you join an organization, for example, you're going to have access to different applications, right? And all these applications have to be managed, or the user itself has to be properly managed from onboarding, the life cycle. That is when the life was given to the user within the environment. The offboarding, that is when the life was taken from that user, right? So what really happened, the major challenge here is that before all these access management across applications are usually done, you know, one by one. You go into Workday, you give access. You go into ERP, you give access. You go into CRM, you go across different applications to give access. But now we have a form of integration of all these applications that's a strong component. that's packaged everything as a lifecycle management. So if a user is coming in as a financial analyst, the system, the identity platform is going to assign that user to marketing applications, or the applications that will be assigned to marketing department. It's going to assign the user the level of access they have based on their roles, based on their attributes, based on whatever this environment has deemed fit to be used as some form of access control within the business. So we've now realized that when these users now leave the environment, sometimes the administrator forgets to remove access from, for example, they remove access from maybe Workday, they forget the one in ERP, or they remove from ERP, they forget the one in IT support, they remove this one, they forget that one, which is exposing enterprises, or government institutions to data breaches, because I assume that the user has been offboarded, the user have left the company, but the user still have access to our ERP. So what this user life cycle management does now is that if the user is onboarded, it's automatically assigned the right application or the right platform. Then when they are offboarded, they are also automatically removed from all those applications. So there's no case of you forgot this application, you forgot that one. Every user have their life cycle properly managed. No, it gives little amount or little chance to um data breaches. And we have different popular identity platform tools. We have the Microsoft Entra ID, which is very good as well. We have the Okta identity platform as well, which is also very good. We also have all these platform, SailPoint. We have ForgeRock. We have different identity platform, but these are like the few ones we are touching on at this time. We also have some form of single sign-on as a component of IAM. Single sign-on is when you have one authentication model, one authentication process to have access to many applications. This can also be under user lifecycle management, because all these applications have already been embedded such that I can now use, let's say, my Microsoft account. I can use it to access the ERP. I can use it to access CRM. I can use it to access HR application or whatever. I don't need to create different identities for those applications, right? So there are different components that we also get exposed to as we go along. Now, here we're talking about compliance and regulation. Under compliance, compliance is very, very, very important, because there's an institute called NIST, National Institute of Standard Technology, that has come together to say, okay, across this sector or across this segment or across these places, we have come together to say, okay, this is the best practices. This is what you should do right. This is what I think you should do next. This is how you should take care of your environment. So they have put the best practices into play to ensure that people have less chances of being exposed. And under the most popular one is the GDPR. This majorly is within Europe, where the general data protection regulation is in form of the data management of each individual, um, and they ensure that there is a high level of data integrity for each individual. So if I do a transaction on your platform, and I see my transaction information elsewhere, then you know that your platform or your enterprise is in trouble. So the data protection is taken really seriously in Europe. Then you have the EPA. The EPA is the Health Information Privacy Act. I've forgotten this other A, but it's something hacked, this is more of health information records, healthcare patient, which means that if there's a particular record I have in my medical platform or medical information or medical case, I don't want to hear about it elsewhere. Oh, you don't know that guy. Oh, he has this issue. You don't know this girl. Oh, she has that issue. No. So as a doctor or as a medical professional or whatever field you are in within the health industry, you have to learn the act of keeping your client's information private. Oh, you don't know that person, they have this kind of issue. So that has been some sort of regulatory um adherence or regulation within that sector. You also have the ISO, which is the International Organization Security Standard. In this platform, many organizations who have taken cybersecurity seriously, they are ISO compliant. ISO is for you to be sure that, oh, if I integrate or if I share my data with this organization, they are ISO compliant. My data is not likely to be breached, right? So it's some form of ensuring that the organization themselves takes cybersecurity seriously, training their users, training their systems, taking best practices into play and all of that. Then you have the PCI DSS, which I've also mentioned a couple of times, which is the payment card industry data security standards. This is also to ensure that when I pay in any environment, my card information is transmitted securely and I will not be exposed. I don't want to buy a cup of tea, then I'm getting a lot for for a brand new Ferrari. But that's just the idea. Cybersecurity tools and platform. Here we're going to talk about the threat detection platform. We have a whole lot of threat detection platform, but we're just going to touch on a couple here. We have Splunk, which can be used to analyze logs, to analyze threat. You can be used to check in fact, Splunk, Microsoft, Wireshark, all of them can be used to analyze logs, can be used to analyze events. They are what they call the SIEM, the Security Information and Event Management. So if I see a particular user logging in from a particular region that is unfamiliar, that's a likely threat. Oh, this person is supposed to be based in Canada. Why are you logging in from India? Why are you logging in from Australia? That's a likely threat, right? Or why are you logging from another region without authorized information across the team to know that you are going to be in that region? If I see, there are different forms of threat detection, it might not necessarily be only location based. If I see, multiple password try, oh, why is this person putting the wrong password a couple of times? You can see the logs, you can analyze the logs. So then, of course, there are also other security measures that you will have put in place when a user put in wrong password a couple of times, they can be logged out, then they reach out to the admin and all of that. But, you know, the essence of this threat detection is just to ensure that before it becomes a problem, you can easily see that, oh, maybe this user is, this system they have or the device they have is in the wrong hands and all of that. Then the vulnerability scanning is particular for all this platform here, which are also a couple more. They have the necessity to analyze your systems for gaps. So the Qualys, the Nessus, the Microsoft Defender, they can scan through your system and say, oh, your password deployment is not strong enough. You're supposed to use 12. They will advise you, they will suggest to you, to your environment to say, okay, you're supposed to use 10 character password that has uppercase, symbol, numbers, and all of that. You're supposed to deploy a password reset every 90 days. You're supposed to implement multi-factor authentication. They will advise you because based on the gaps that they've exploited or based on the gaps they've seen with data environment. You're supposed to, host your data securely. Different kind of, vulnerabilities that they can come across. Then we have different learning platforms. We have the TryAcme, we have the ArcDobox, where you can also have access to different cybersecurity measures and different cybersecurity, for beginners, they are beginner friendly, that you can also have access to that to learn more about cybersecurity. Then you have the password and identity protection, which is a form of managing your identity across all platforms, managing your passwords. Or they don't necessarily have access to your password, but they manage it for you. For example, if you have different platforms within your environment and you need to store the password, you can use something like LastPass to share the password in the environment. So when you need somebody to access the environment, or when you need somebody to access the application within the environment, you can just share that password with a person securely. You don't have to type it in instant messaging platform like Teams, what's this other one? Uh, Teams, Slack, and all the likes, right? So you can just send it securely through the LastPass. There are also different kind of password storage platform as well. Now, the third module, we have the cybersecurity threat landscape. We are also going to touch on how the threat landscape is constantly evolving and how attackers use different methods of hacking to compromise systems because every day attackers get wiser. We have to keep that at the back of our head. As we are talking, they are not sleeping. They are looking for ways to, to take vulnerabilities, to compromise systems and have access to unauthorized data. And we need to understand that these threats are critical to ensure that we're able to defend our environment securely. Now we have the common cybersecurity threats. We have under malware, we have viruses, we have worms. Virus comes in different forms. They can send you a file. You open the file, they have access to your system. They can send you a document. You open the document, you have access to your system. They can send you an application. You install it, they have access to your system. So you have worms, you have ransomware, you have Trojans, different kind of malwares that we also have to take note of. And under phishing is also the art of manipulating people or systems to gain access to the environment. Like I think I touched on that earlier, where they send you something like fake links. They can send maybe WhatsApp from WhatsApp.com, and you look at the spelling of WhatsApp.com, it can be WATSAPP, and like, okay, it looks like WhatsApp. Oh, the background, everything looks like WhatsApp. You click on it, they have access to your system. Then you have the insider threat, which I also mentioned that insider threat is not also only pegged on users or people. It's also pegged across weak application, weak systems. Users don't know the best practices as well. They can likely cause harm within your business or within your environment. Then we have the denial of service. Denial of service is someone like, brute force. Under denial of service, we have brute force attack. So we have brute force attack where they're going to bombard your system until it goes down. They're going to rush your brute force attack is also a part of um if you're trying to guess your password again or password for your system, they can quickly try millions of passwords at the same time until one clicks in, right? All these are under denial of service. Denial of service is also ransomware is also under denial of service because once they have access to your system, downtime, no, no, no access anymore to your application. Then we have the zero-day attack. Zero-day attack is also, exploiting unknown software vulnerabilities, ensuring that at the right time, every time you are licensed to use the right application. Don't go and use cheaper application, not necessarily cheaper, but don't go and use unlicensed or unauthorized application. You know, system that has been hacked. It's at your own risk because it's a major risk. You're using a system where I can still have access to all the features and you deploy it into your environment. You can you can be basically exposing your system or you're exposing your environment. And that's why some companies are against strongly using open source technology because open source is accessible to everyone. It's open, right? So the security is not like there's no security, but as long as it's open to everyone, everyone can easily or exploit the platform. Then the case study that we've also look into, Target is a designer, a popular designer, a popular fashion designer who had data breach. I think it was in 2013, and it cost them over $40 million. No, it was more than that. I think $130 million because huge number of customer records were exposed. So it's a lot of money that they got they got sanctioned for, they got issue from, right? Because of that exposure. Then we have, the WannaCry, the ransomware, which happened in 2017, where huge numbers of computers were affected across different countries, across huge number of countries, because ransomware, like it sounds, it's ransom. They're going to hold your data to ransom. They're kidnapping your data, and you will not have access to anything, right, until you do what you're supposed to do. Then you have the Twitter hack as well, where high profile accounts were hijacked to promote crypto scam. I think that, yeah, that was during COVID. Yeah, so this was also very, very, very was a big issue then because they needed to, those hackers probably needed to push the kind of crypto they've invested in. So they need high profile people to kind of say, oh, I bought this kind of crypto. So the price will go up. By the time the price go up, they quickly sell it and get their money. Those kind of things. Then the last, I think should be the second to the last module. Here we have how cybersecurity relates with other roles. Like I mentioned earlier, it, I want to also clarify that cybersecurity is not only for technical experts, it's also for many professionals who can transition into the field, who can also leverage on their current skills, whether you're a financial administrator or you're a HR analyst or you're a data analyst or whatever role you find yourself. There's always a level of cybersecurity as long as you're digitally inclined. Then we have cybersecurity core rules. The core rules under cybersecurity are enormous. We have the security analyst, we have the SOC analyst, which is the Security Operations Center analyst. We have the penetration tester. Pen tester are more like those who are continually checking for vulnerabilities within the system. They're trying to penetrate the system. They're trying to check how your system can easily be penetrated. We have the incident responder, which are all more like looking for threats before the incident becomes problem. They are the one looking out for that. We have the security engineers. We have the compliance specialists, the GRC, that's the governance, risk, and compliance. They are the specialists who are ensuring that, okay, this is how you're going to govern your data across the environment. These are the potential risks. These are the new compliance that we have to take into consideration and all of that. So that is their role for GRC. Then we have cybersecurity across roles. Business analysts, you need cybersecurity. You will have, some huge, huge level of interaction with cybersecurity on a day-to-day basis. Um, because a lot of business analysts role focus on processes, focus on data, focus on compliance, and you have to also be able to know that okay, the data or the process you are designing is important for the business and also as well as secure as well. The project manager as well, you also need data because I'm a certified project manager. I will tell you for free that you need data, you need cybersecurity at almost every level, except you're in construction project manager maybe. But even at that, you will still need it because you are constructing. You need to install CCTV. You need to install some level of access control, key fob, all of this garage opener, this and that. But you will still need it. Trust me, you need it across different kind of project delivery, across whether it's healthcare, construction, IT everywhere. Everywhere you're going to need cybersecurity. Then developers, of course, you need to be aware with cybersecurity best practices, knowing how to develop the right authentication model, the right authorization model, the right compliance model, the right approval method. The best practices, the right coding practices needs to be in place. It's part of knowledge of cybersecurity that you have to understand. You're not just going to develop a platform or develop a feature, and those feature can be a form of vulnerability to the system. No, you have to develop the features securely. And then HR as well. These are some of the roles. These are not all the roles, of course, but everything you see here are just some of the roles that um, that cut across cybersecurity. HR, they manage people data, they manage employee data, they do onboarding, offboarding, they are even easily accessible to threats as well. So the HR is very, very important for them to know about cybersecurity. Then finance as well, you're the one in charge of money. You are always targeted and they need to understand how to easily detect fraud, how data integrity. They need to understand, different forms of manipulations here and there within the finance businesses and every other rules that interfaces digitally that you can think of. There is a form of cybersecurity in there. My partner, for example, is a privacy analyst and she's really, 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 really looking into cybersecurity now. So it cuts across everything, right? Um, then how do we bridge into cybersecurity if we are just starting or if we've already started? We have a lot of transferable skill that we can bring into play, like I was, analyzing earlier, talking about my our day-to-day life, how we do authentication, how we do authorization. Those are transferable skills. You might not know that you have it, and by the time you come into cybersecurity, you can then relate and say, okay, oh, this is how this thing works. So this is just how I used to talk to John. I try to encrypt my words, so he already knows this is what I'm saying. This is how I talk to whoever. Different forms of transferable skill, compliance, how you try to do everything right within your environment, how you try to ensure that okay, the cup is in the right place, the right right peg is in the round hole, right, and all of those things. How you communicate, how you ensure that you communicate, securely. You don't just communicate and start exposing other people to other people's information. You're on the phone, you put your phone on speaker, everybody around you is hearing your conversation back and forth. They know, oh, this is the person you're talking to. They might not even know the person you're talking to, but no, they already know that you're talking about money problems, you're talking about the person health records, or you're talking about, private information publicly. All these are form of transferable skills. And also how we analyze things. We also have some level of analysis or analytics that we do within our roles or within what we do on a day-to-day basis, how we analyze things. These are also skills that you can transfer into cybersecurity. And, like we touched on, there are different forms of certifications that you can also look into that can put your foot in the door for cybersecurity. We have the CompTIA Security Plus. We have, Google Cybersecurity. We have the ISC Cybersecurity. We have the CISSP, that's Certified Information Security Professional. We have CISA, Certified Information Security Auditor. We have CAISM. We have Security Manager. So all of these are, I think there's see a couple more, but all these certifications are under cybersecurity, and they are very, very, very important to, to elevate your profile, to upskill, to put your foot in the door. Then strongly, you also have to continue, building presence, reading blogs, LinkedIn posts. If you have some GitHub projects that you can work on, GitHub is free. You can set up your GitHub account, start putting your project there gradually. Before you know, you get more skilled, you get more experience working within the cybersecurity space. Then here we're talking about cybersecurity in practice. I want to talk about how learning cybersecurity also involve adopting good practices and habits within our environment as a people, right? I was talking about, for example, you're talking on the phone with someone and you put the phone on loudspeaker when you're in a public space and everybody can hear, oh, this person has this form of sickness, or this person has this form of that. That is not good habit. It's not good practice. You so try not keep the person confidential. Try to not to expose people's information without their consent. Try to, maintain good physical protection across your environment. You can also leverage on this into cybersecurity. Then we also have different forms for advanced skill, different form of foundation for more advanced skills and career growth that we can also leverage on in terms of practices, because the more you practice, practice makes perfect, right? So the more you do it, the more you get good at it, and the more you advance your skills, and the more you are likely to grow within your career or within your business. Then we're going to talk about the cybersecurity best practices, where these are some of the form of best practices that we should take into consideration in our daily life. Ensure always that we use strong passwords. Ensure always that we use password manager as well. Ensure always that we use multi-factor authenticator or authentication, which means that added levels or added layer of security across our systems and device and applications. We should also ensure that we're browsing securely. You're not going to unauthorized links. You're not going to, unauthorized websites. You're not going to the wrong website to try and download, for those of you who like movies, or you want to download the latest movies, you want to go through different levels of, porous website to get those things. You have to try to browse securely, right? Try to use the right platform that are made for that. Don't go through the corners because the corners can expose you. And not only you as well, can also expose the people around you because if you are exposed and you have 1,000 contacts on your phone or you have 1,000 contacts that you have information exchange with, those contacts too are likely exposed. So that's what you should also think about. It's not only about you, it's also about people or users who are connected to you. Then data backup. We should also conduct, practice of backing our data up frequently, ensuring that we have the right account of our data in case anything happens. It might not necessarily be that you're exposed, your phone, your device can get damaged, your device can get stolen, your device can get, in different forms. But with the right backup strategy, you can always be able to get your data back. Now, right recently, a lot of platforms are already offering that service. You have the Google Drive, you have OneDrive, you have AWS, you have all these, so you have Dropbox, you have different places that you can back up your data, securely, and they are in real time. Right, so that you can also back it up locally if you have a local server, if you have a hard disk, if you have all those, small storage devices as well that you know that you can also use that as form of backup. But of course, cloud backups are much more recommended because they are secure, they are reliable, and they're always available. All you just need to do is to get a new device and all your data is back up, back online. Excuse me. So we have the mobile device security as well. Ensure you update your operating system regularly. Any apps that you're using, make sure you use security apps. Make sure you have all your apps updated so that you are not going to be exposed easily as well. Then continuous monitoring, which is also part of the threat detection platform that we mentioned earlier, and as well as vulnerability detection as well, where you have, those Microsoft Defender, we have the Sentinel, Splunk. The same here is the security information and event management, which is we have the same tools, which are the Splunk, the Sentinel, the Defender, and all of that. So those tools can be readily available for you to respond to incidents, for you to know what to do when something happens, before something happens in many cases, because like the name sounds, information management and event management. Event, as things are happening, the systems are capturing it. Oh, this person just logged in. This person accessed this person accessed that. This person did that. This user, this application. So you have different events. All the events across the system are being captured, so you can always be readily available to respond. Then we'll have a couple of free tools here that we are going to talk about. The Virus Total that is also used to scan suspicious files. We have Wireshark. Wireshark is majorly focused on network traffic analysis, more like network events as well. You can always, filter your network, know how much data you're pulling, know what is going on within your network with Wireshark. You can also check, have I been pawned, to see if your email has been compromised. You can check different learning platforms like you touched on earlier, the Try Acme, ArcBoss, Google Cybersecurity, Cyber, and different learning platform for beginners and those who have also been in the pipeline. Then identify phishing email. Yeah, so I talked about phishing the other time. I was saying phishing is not a new method of scamming or of hackers taking advantage of. There's also spamming as well. Um, you know, but you should also the things that you should look out for to easily identify phishing emails. You look at the urgency of the email. When they say do it now, pay it now, confirm it now, do it now. Why the urgency? For example, so that also gives us some form of red flag to say, oh, why are they telling me to do it now? Now, what's going on? Right? You also need to verify the sender address carefully to know that okay, this you have to look at it. If this person is telling me now, is this from the right user? Then you also be able to identify, phishing emails through that. And you should avoid clicking suspicious links or downloading attachment because, like I think I touched on that as well. From downloading attachment, your data can be exposed. From clicking suspicious link, the data can be exposed. So there are different forms from data exposure that you can easily get exposed. Then if you are able to identify all of these, report and delete the suspected phishing attempts. So in this particular email, we can see that, first of all, the email is not properly addressed, because as if I'm a PayPal user, they will definitely have my account, and can say, okay, dear Adidapo, instead of dear PayPal customer. Who is PayPal customer? Do you get? So this is first red flag for me. And you can see your account is limited. You have 24 hours. So why do I have 24 hours to, solve my problem? So this is some form of urgency that we're talking about. And so why even saying that I have 24 hours? The next message is already saying that, oh, we are sorry to inform you that you no longer have access to paper advantages like purchasing and la la la. So they are already putting that urgency in my mind. Say, oh, my paper account, oh, I have 20,000, I have 30,000 there, I have this amount of money. Then I'll start getting worried. But if you're calm and you look through it, like, okay, what's going on here? So they're asking me to click on this link to confirm my information. And once I click on this link, I get into their platform and they have access to my data. But also, from reviewing from verifying the email address, I can see that this is not from paypal.com. This is not from paypal.com. This is from paypal-accounts.com. So which means that it's the wrong domain. It's coming from the wrong domain, right? So all of those things, you have to look into it critically before you say, okay, this data might likely be the correct, is really for me, and click on the link. But once you click on this link and they have access to your platform, within seconds or minutes, it's gone. All right. So they might do a lot of damage before you can control it. So here we're going to talk about the 30 to 60 and 90-day plan. And this is also important because this brings together the beginner, the intermediates, and those who are even experts, right? They can also come in to see how they are going to learn from this 90-day plan. So from the 90-day plan, from the 30 days plan, where we're going to talk about um, data explore. We're going to talk about exploration and foundation of cybersecurity, the CIA triad in more detail. The threats, the risks, the vulnerabilities in detail as well. This is which will be more. This will be very, very important for the beginner because this is the foundation. You have to really, really get full grasp of the foundation. Then you can build on what you know. If you want to focus on network security, if you want to focus on application security, if you find any other parts that you want to focus on of cybersecurity, if you want to do everything as well, it's okay. But once you have full grasp of the foundation, you can be able to decide what you really want to do. Then we'll be able to study towards Security Plus certification. If you want to write any certification, we'll try to help you to say, okay, as you're learning more about this, we'll be able to prepare you towards Security Plus. This is CompTIA Security Plus or ISC, ISC 2 cybersecurity certification as well. So this can also be beginner form of certification. And we can also help you, learn about improving personal security hygiene, password manager, MFA, security protocols, endpoint protection, all of those things. You're going to have good, strong knowledge. But the focus here is majorly on exploration and foundation because I strongly believe that if you have strong foundation, you'll be able to make strong decisions. You'll be able to learn, build on what you know or what you have passion for. Because you cannot say you might not really want to say I have passion for all the domains of cybersecurity. You might, but it might just be good to focus on one segment and then build on from there. Then we'll have the 60-day plan where we're going to talk more about the tools, the cybersecurity tools, the Wireshark, the Bob suit, the Splunk, the Sentinel, the Microsoft Defender, different kind of tools that you probably need to make your work easier or to make your work better as well. Then, how you can also get your hands dirty, because getting your hands dirty is the fastest way to learn in IT. You cannot just learn by reading alone. You have to get your hands dirty. And that's why I'm sure a lot of you would have come across people who always say, oh, there's no need to get certified. Just go and learn it. But again, certification has its own pros and cons. but getting your hands dirty is really, really much more important. Then we're going to also learn how we're going to practice on labs. Well, we're going to do some practice labs to get our hands dirty. Probably start a project on maybe secure your home Wi-Fi, write a blog post, securing your website, mini project here and there, just to get our hands dirty and be able to work across different domains of IT, that's a web application, network, endpoint protection, all of those things will be part of what you will learn in your 60 days plan. Then in 90 days, which is also to prepare you for entry level role or beginner role where you can easily put your foot on the door and be able to prove yourself that, oh, yes, you know what you're talking about. You can easily pick a focus, as a SOC analyst, as a penetration tester, or GRC, governance, risk, and compliance analyst, or you can be a cloud security professional, whatever you have picked as a focus. Or if it's everything you want to do it, learn everything, then anyone that comes first in terms of opportunity, you can then leverage on that growth. That also will be part of what we'll focus on, which is the career prep and specialization. Because I strongly believe that it's good to learn everything, but sometimes we have a sector or we have a point of focus where we are more passionate about, where we say like, okay, this sector, when you bring me here, I'm really ready to learn on the go. Then, of course, we'll also help update your resume. Also help improve your LinkedIn with skills, with new skills, and also again, the concept here is to ensure that you get your foot on the door. Once you get your foot on the door, the ball is in your court, to prove yourself to the prospective employer or the prospective opportunity that you can really, really do the job. Then, like I mentioned earlier, this is sort of prepare you for internships or entry level role where you can, because once you start getting your hand dirty, within no time, within a year, 6 months, a year, you start getting really, really comfortable. Once you get really comfortable, you can then ask, okay, I'll spend 1 year here. I can do this. I can do that. You can talk more on it. You can talk more. You can also look into learning advanced topics depending on your chosen track, depending on what you want to really focus on. Then you can, grow in that line. You can also scale in that line. You can get more opportunity. You can, look into more businesses. You can say, okay, I want to move from this entry level role. I want to go into a more advanced role. Of course, more role, more responsibility, better pay, right? So that's the goal. But the most important thing for me, foundation, get your hands dirty and try to specialize. Try to specialize so that then if they come to your domain, it's good to have knowledge of other domains as well, right? But once you specialize, you know that this is my field. As a pen tester, you cannot tell me what I don't know. This is one I'm going to tell you everything about it, right? So it will also be helpful for you. So thank you. Let's have the questions now. Um,
Thank you very much, Adedapo. That was a
you're
very
wel-
intense and yeah, I mean, maybe one, I don't know, I lost track of time. I don't know how long we spent.
yeah,
So yeah,
I was enjoying it. I was getting into it. I realized that I don't want to keep people here too for too long as well.
yeah, I noticed that they were enjoying it too. So thanks, guys. I mean, for everyone that has been here from the beginning, thanks everyone. If you have any questions, I haven't seen any questions in the chat box so far, so I'm assuming that everything that you explained was clear enough. I mean, I also learned a lot. So I have also dropped some information in the chat box, right? For those of us that it might be relevant to. So like you've all seen, that Adedapo is a very experienced cybersecurity expert who has a lot of certifications and experience. And for those of you that would be interested in a longer term bootcamp, we're looking at just like he had said, right? A bootcamp that is going to be immersive, where you're going to get hands-on support, a lot of practice, and also mentorship. Right? You can always just follow the links in the chat box, and you'll see it. Or you can just join the channel. Again, all those resources will be dropped in there. Um, I see your question, Mariam. You can either check the links, you can send an email, or just join the channel and you get more updates regarding those trainings. And no, it is not going to be physical. No, it is all going to be online. However, this, like I mentioned earlier, we have been doing trainings for a long time now. So I don't think that we're going to have a problem having all those things take place. I personally have taken a lot of boot camps with various organizations, right? So I know that Adedapo has also trained a few people in cybersecurity, and so we shouldn't have any problem with that. That said, I will just ask all of us again to check the chat box for all of the information that you might need. If you have any questions, you can make use of the email address. You can join. When you join the WhatsApp channel, there's more contact information there where you can either reach us via calls, WhatsApp, or any other platforms that you might need to. And also, this week, the recording of this session will be shared on our YouTube channel, and it will also be dropped in the WhatsApp channel for those of you that might want to see it again. So again, I invite you to join so that you have all of that information. So while I haven't gotten any additional questions, so I'm going to say thank you very much, Adidapo. So we're hoping that we're going to see you in our boot camp. It has been a very interesting session with you. And we're going to be having our next session in another 2 weeks. And again, that information will be available to everyone on the WhatsApp channel. So just copy what I have dropped in the chat box, and yeah, you can access those links whenever you want to. Thank you very much, everyone. It has been a very wonderful evening having you all. Please leave a review for us on our social media page if you can get it. I'll drop our LinkedIn page here as well, right? I'll drop our LinkedIn page here as well. So you can please leave us a review. We're going to appreciate that very much. And yeah, that's all that we have for today. We hope that you're going to join our future sessions. We hope that you enjoyed this one enough to join us again another time. Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day wherever you are or wherever you're joining from. And again, if you have questions regarding the um, if you have any questions regarding the boot camps and the training, by all means, just send an email and we'll be glad to respond to any concerns or any questions or any inquiries that you might have. So here you go. I'm dropping the link to our LinkedIn page now. Just give me a second. Okay. So that's our LinkedIn page, and you can always join. So thanks, everyone. Please make sure that you join the channel before you leave. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.